Welcome to Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest, back with you for another triple episode coverage, just as it released, of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I am recording it in a different way than I did last week. What I'm going to do today to try and be able to give you the best episode will be watching an episode, turning on record, talking about that, then watch the next episode, record about it, talk about it, and then the final one, same thing. So you'll kind of be getting a fresh eyes look of each episode along the way, instead of like me having an overall knowledge of what already happened. I don't currently know what happens after episode 1. I just watched it. I mean, well, technically episode 6 of the show. By the way, it's called Duel with the Devil. And pretty big cameo along with that name. If you get anyone in mind, it's probably Daredevil. And yeah, he does make a cameo. And yes, that is Charlie Cox, the Daredevil, voicing him. So lots of cool, I don't know if you call that an Easter egg or like just a nice surprise, but there's a lot of that. There's a lot of nods in this episode to events in the MCU. We hear Lagos be brought up. And if you don't remember, that is the first scene in Captain America where they are chasing Rumlow. He's become a supervillain, and Scarlet Witch definitely accidentally, unlike later, she caused a big explosion trying to save him, trying to save people on the ground. That is brought up in the news, and the Sokovia Accords, that made me think, are we earlier than Civil War? But like last week we saw the battle. However, this is Civil War, parallel to Civil War, and right now in that world of the Avengers on that Earth, they just finished. Like Steve Rogers is on the run, Tony's probably back, and we are officially in the fallout period, and there's not like a whole lot that happens in between this and Infinity War, but that's not true. There's a whole bunch of stuff. That's it. I believe Civil War is the beginning of Phase 3. But anyway, I think it's really cool that I'm not off topic by talking about Civil War. We are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and a parallel timeline that's very special and unique, because we get to tell this. This is what I wanted a Marvel show from the beginning of Daredevil season 1. I wanted to feel like we're living in the MCU with the animation. It probably makes it a lot easier to get more characters in and to make it feel like Spider-Man, along with the MCU factors. If you're a huge fan of the universe, you're going to be enjoying nerding out a little bit about where they are, what they're doing, what's happening in the background, what's going to happen when Thanos shows up, because everything else happened the same. Will Peter get involved then? I think he will. I don't know what's going to happen with Norman. Will Norman ever turn into the Green Goblin? Like, we'll always be waiting for it, but maybe it'll never happen. But I think personally though, I think fans want that though. I think fans will be disappointed. However, they do role reversals in these movies. What if like the Watcher's gone, but Uatu's gone, but I'm still here, and he's still watching? They could do a thing where Harry goes through it with the fact that Peter and his dad always have something going on. A lot of jealousy can come out of that. I fully expect that to happen. I don't know if Harry will somehow go supervillain on us. I don't know how that will happen either. I that's what I like about this show, though. It kind of messes with your expectations. We didn't know what kind of connection to the MCU this would have. Honestly, ever since I heard about this show, I thought, okay, so it's just going to be like another Spider-Man show. It's not going to have much to do with the MCU. And then there were rumors that this was an actual prequel with our Peter. And then it comes to this, where it's a mix of the both, and we get the classic Spider-Man world and villains, while at the same time we are in the same universe as in the MCU as Doctor Strange, just like the first episode. The cameos are insane, and It's really, honestly, just exciting. It's just so exciting because I love the MCU and the lore, and when you put a little effort to connect things to that, it adds weight to the multiverse saga and just to the show and to the fans who have been following the MCU. It's an acknowledgement of them and a nod to them, and it gives that show a little bit of extra spark, if you ask me. So yeah, last week, Doc Ock, we learned he was selling all of this technology, creating supervillains. He does not let up. He does not let up. We learn a little bit more about Doc Ock through Norman in this episode, and we find out that they used to work together. However, they had a falling out. If you ever played Spider-Man 2, the game, maybe this happens in the comics because this is the second time I've seen this. There's like a rivalry between Octavius and Osborne, and that's a big rivalry in the first Spider-Man game. By the way, I beat Spider-Man 2, the game, on PC, the new one. Oh my god. I might have to do an episode about that series, but it doesn't really cross in the MCU, so let me know what you think about that. MarvelManiacPod at gmail.com. Do you want me to talk about video games, Marvel Rivals, Spider-Man, anything else that comes out along the line? I'd be interested in maybe doing even 5 to 10 minute little episodes about those. What do you think, though? MarvelManiacPod at gmail.com. Your feedback is very appreciated. Okay, so let's get back into the episode / into the episode. I mean, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but it's kind of easier for me to stick to the topic of Dr. Octavius because he's in the forefront of my mind right now. He's the last thing I saw in that episode, and what is he doing at the end of the episode? He's turning Scorpion into Scorpion. Like, he is going to be full supervillain next episode, and I think his name isn't even in the title. I think the next one's called Scorpion Rising. On Peter Parker's side of things, he wants Niko and Harry to become friends, so he does everything he can to get them to hang out and build a friendship together, and it's kind of funny to watch. They don't really know each other or like each other, and they're super awkward. And it doesn't go the way you would expect either. They're definitely trying to talk, but Peter has to leave them because there was a break-in in Oscorp. Well, this is supposed to be a break weekend on the Spider-Man stuff for Osborne and Peter and Harry, but he can't help but get dragged back into it. Anyway, the Norman Osborn of this universe was walking into... He wasn't walking. I don't know what I'm talking about. He arrived at this charity thing, and apparently it's to support the victims of the Lagos attacks in Civil War. So it's going deeper into Civil War, deeper into MCU lore. I love it. Forgive me if I'm a little hoarse in my voice today. I talk a lot. When I yap a lot, I have a kind of a raspy voice. But anyway, this party, this charity that Norman's at, he runs into none other than General Thunderbolt Ross, who I was kind of surprised wasn't like animated to look like Harrison Ford. He looked just like William Hurt, and I believe that is an homage, if you ask me, because William Hurt was playing the role at that time. So they're not gonna retcon him from places, like, even if they're telling the tale of another movie, like where he was playing that character, they're going to keep him that character even in an animated form, which I think I like. I think I can respect that a lot. But the Sokovia Accords, as you might know, are in full swing. Something that really, really surprised me was Norman talking to General Ross, and they talk a bit about the Sokovia Accords. Osborne brings up Captain America being on the run in a very deep, the most sinister sounding I've ever heard him. Maybe because he's talking about Cap, and I love Cap, but he doesn't like Team Cap. He's definitely on Team Iron Man's side of the Accords. And then he's on that topic, he's like, by the way, I don't know if he says I've been training someone, I've been working on something, but he shows him like a slight picture of like Spider-Man. He's like, he's called Spider-Man, but I need some things to stay like top secret, pretty much. And General Ross is like, oh, we can do that. Spider-Man's about to become a government operative. Like, they're taking this path of where will Spidey go next? What will it be like for Spidey to be in this different position we've never seen a Spider-Man in, making this show quite special. And an underdog, again, I think this is a show that people might overlook or have overlooked. And I also do think that it's going to catch on. And I think it's a really fun show. Could anything be done better? I can't think of anything right now. I wish I could be more critical. I really just thought this episode was a little bit slower. We got a little bit of Lonnie's storyline where his girlfriend really wants to know what's going on with him, and she knows something is wrong. His brother's upset with him because he had more going on in his life than being in a gang, and he's getting sucked in. He likes the name Tombstone from last week, but he realized he was being followed from a store. He was buying some potato chips. A car was following him until he started running, and he ran to one of the 10th Street hideouts, if there's more than one. I don't know, it could be and his gang kind of like have his back. So that's another moment of like affirmation for him that the gang is there for him. The saddest part of this episode, it's the beginning for Lonnie when he gets booted off the football team. And that was his big thing. That was his thing, keeping him grounded, tethered to the earth. And he got ripped away from it. And that, it sucks. It's sad. It makes you feel for him. Tombstone is a Spider-Man villain, so I don't think they're going to just make Lonnie good again. This is a more of a tragic story. I think there will be two main villains at the end of this season, and it'll be Lonnie and or Octavius or both. A common cause maybe will make the Lonnie and team up with Doc Ock, maybe turn him into the actual Tombstone. I don't know what powers that is or where he got them, but he's more looking like an actual in the game, at least. That's all I know him for. He's pale, so, and he's usually older in the game, but that's just one universe. So I'm very interested in where the story is going with him. It's sad. His family is kind of sweet, so his hard life got even a bit harder, unfortunately. At the charity, Osborne was named a big donor, and the next big donor after that listed was Bishop, and I think that might be Kate Bishop's mom. Right time, right place. I think that definitely could be her. Highlight of the episode, I think it might be for everyone, is the arrival / bringing in of Daredevil, and that he's the person breaking into Oscorp to dig up information on Norman. It's said by Norman that later on that he believes the Daredevil was sent by Osborne. But if you know Daredevil, no, I'm sorry, he is Osborne. I meant Octavius. That Daredevil was sent by Dr. Octavius. And I don't think that's true. I think it just gets him in motion to start fighting Octavius and looking for him. He assumes it's Octavius. But Daredevil, if you watch the shows, I don't know. He's not going to be, I think he's going to be literally trying to take down the main guy in power. I don't think he'd be working with anyone like Dr. Octavius at all. I'm excited to see if he even comes back in the show for a part. But it seemed to be he was searching just for some dirt on Osborne because he knows there's something wrong with him. Or maybe there's something a little bit more than we know that he knows. And he's trying to act on it. And we know Daredevil's a good superhero. I haven't seen him turn anti-hero or bad guy yet. Maybe he'll have a plot like that in the next season, Brave New World. No, Brave New World is Captain America coming out tomorrow. I'm going to see it. Daredevil Born Again coming out in March. We're going to be covering that next. And boy, I'm excited yet a little perplexed by how I'm going to recap that for you guys, all those Netflix shows. But I'm going to do my best to make a killer episode about it. So be on the lookout for that in coming weeks before Daredevil Born Again comes out on March 4th. I like that Norman calls Peter in just for security checkup in the building. And this fight we get between Daredevil and Spider-Man, I thought it was pretty well animated. Playing the Spider-Man games recently, I like that he uses those just quick webs to the shoot, where he shoots them real quickly. That's kind of the main thing in Spider-Man the game. And I don't know if they've been doing that a long time in the movies. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's his main attack style. But I just got to say, it was a pretty well animated. I really, really am excited just about the fact that these characters are meeting up. It just sucks that it's not Tom Holland, but we take what we can get. A little hint of what might have been the next Spider-Man movie if Sony didn't want to make it another crossover film with the other Spider-Man. But hopefully we'll get that ground level Spidey soon enough, maybe after the multiverse saga, where Daredevil and Spider-Man like finally go after Fisk and take him down together. That would be a movie or a series I would watch in a second. Please do something like that, Marvel. That would be sick. Peter's like having fun during their fight, and he's like, wow, we're so high above the city. Top 5 superhero fights for sure. How about you? Daredevil gets kind of a kick out of that, and he agrees with him. So this action-packed extraordinaire with Daredevil and Spidey lasts a couple minutes. Daredevil wins just by a little bit, and he throws his stick, and it like ricochets similar to Cap's shield, but in its own way, like across the whole room, and then like knocks Peter out. I thought that was really cool. I think he was clear to him that Peter's a young superhero. I don't think that Daredevil wanted to cause him really any pain, truly. I think it was just to get him out of the way. And, yeah, I mean, not much more happened this episode. Osborne talks to Peter about what happened, like we talked about, Octavius has brought up. And then Peter's rushing home because Niko and Harry are there alone. Not in a jealous kind of way. It's just like he left his friends, hanging. But the thing is, Harry didn't know if Niko knew that Peter was Spider-Man. And before Peter comes home, like we see a scene where he's like about to tell her, and he gets home, and the minute he gets home, she's like, so Harry's trying to tell me you're Spider-Man. And Peter's like, and he like drops his notebook, literally showing Spider-Man sketches and his actual Spider-Man mask. This really was upsetting for Peter, and Harry's just like, I didn't know. And that's it for them on this episode. We get to see a couple things happening at the end of the episode. For next episode, it looks like the lady that was following Lonnie actually tracked him back to their hideout, the gang he's in. So I'm expecting a fallout from that in the next episode, especially because the next scene we see Doc Ock making Scorpion into Scorpion. Yeah, Doc Ock is definitely the big bad of this season, and I like it. And that's all I got for episode 6, titled Duel with the Devil. The duels with literal Daredevil. Man, that's pretty awesome. And on to the next episode. Episode 7, titled Scorpion Rising. In the Home trilogy, the post-credit scene for actually Spider-Man Homecoming, we do get a hint of the Lizard. We meet him in prison, and he is the guy who asks the Vulture if he knows the identity and knows more about Spider-Man because he wants payback, because Spider-Man put him there. And nice scene. It's kind of like wholesome in a way because Vulture doesn't even tell him, even though he knows. So I don't know if it's necessarily because he wants to protect Peter, but maybe it's just like, well, here's one for saving my daughter, and he knows deep down Peter's a good kid. Don't mean to get so off topic, but you do draw a lot of parallels from these movies and the movies in this, and I'd say the biggest difference is Peter. It's a different Peter. He's just a little bit more fresh, and I think the Iron Man thing probably helped the Peter from MCU main timeline. I think it might have helped him gain some confidence, and I think his confidence is growing over this show. But this next episode, Scorpion Rising, actually makes me wonder where he is at Spider-Man, because he's fighting like a pro, but then he takes a huge beating from Scorpion at the end of the episode, to a point where you're wondering what's gonna happen here. Like, are they gonna kill him then bring him back to life? Like, there's no way. It's too early in the show for this. And Norman at the time, I'm skipping right to the end of the episode. Let me jump back a little bit. And we're back. We're back to the beginning. That was a little hint of what just happened, but a little hint of what's to come. To be completely honest and fair, there's not a whole lot that happens in this episode until the fight at the end. There's some little things and there's some good character developments. I think a big part of this episode was bringing together Harry and Niko. There's something going on with Niko's necklace. I think it might have been showcased and even honed in on before, but it went over my head. But right now, this episode was undeniable. There was a moment the Thing helped her during this episode. So I wonder if Niko is some sort of superpowered individual. Maybe she's mad because Spider-Man is someone she would have liked to team up with and maybe work on being a hero with. That, or she found it. I don't know. I'm actually pretty curious about that, because I just kind of put Niko down as love interest slash friend slash the MJ of this universe. But maybe there is an actual MJ. Maybe Niko's a completely different element to this series slash universe. Definitely some chemistry between Niko and Harry. Peter's not there. They're both there because of Peter, but there's an undeniable kind of like feeling in the room, and they have these moments where, I can't actually 100% say if it is like a romantic connection, more of just like, oh, this person could be a great friend of mine. But like, I don't know, just watching it, my gut feeling tells me that they have something going on. They don't have something going on yet, but like, there's definitely something there. And that's a possible point of maybe tension later down the road, because Peter likes her. And who knows where this is going. This show's been surprising. This episode surprised me a lot. I didn't expect them to bring so many iconic villains into the show by now. I mean, you forget that Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin, maybe until the end of this episode in most universes. We also already have Doc Ock being kind of a main antagonist in the background, and I don't think he's made his tentacles yet. I'm pretty sure he's working on his let's say augmentation in the background. But he's definitely running the show, and he made Scorpion just a powerful suit that really gives Spider-Man a run for the money. Before they left, Peter was trying to find where Osborn is, and Peter realized it had to do with gamma radiation, and the way he's making these weapons and pieces for the villains. So Peter's right, and Norman is very honed in on finding out where Octavius is. And in the meantime, Peter is he starts off the fight pretty good with Scorpion, but he really gets hurt. Like, Scorpion is whipping the butt out, whipping him up. He's whipping him up, and he's stabbed him, and he keeps beating him up. And Norman doesn't realize this because he's so honed in on finding Octavius, his position, that he realizes that he hasn't been looking at Peter, who's in dire straits. So Peter gets saved by, what is it? Is it a glider? Oh, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So the Green Goblin's already working on his arsenal. Will it be a good Green Goblin this time? Will he be like more of a sidekick to Peter? Or will there be like a complete reveal of like, I'm actually really evil and I've been using you? Or, you know what I mean? He's keeping his enemies closer. He's mysterious. And the first kind of objective force against Osborn was Daredevil. And if you watch Daredevil, you know he's got a pretty good moral compass. He's a little more intense and beats guys up a little bit more than Spidey does. But he is a good person. And for him to be looking into Osborn, naturally, he's got good intentions. And then we find, Niko kind of opens up to Harry. She feels left behind by Peter. So as they're growing their friendship, she's still upset with Peter because she's so good friends with him. And why wouldn't he tell her? She doesn't understand that it's for her own protection. He doesn't want her to get hurt. And how could I almost forget the street race? That this was a big, they were a bigger part of the episode almost than Spider-Man until the end, their storyline. And she has a street race and she wins. But oh my goodness, do not do this at home. She was very, very dangerous. That's a very dangerous thing to do, especially if you don't know how to drive. I was actually worried for them a little bit. Like, oh no, what if she gets like Harry in the hospital or something like that, or herself for that matter. Another big subplot of this episode is Lonnie and Pearl finding out where he's going. His brother texts her, and she knows something's wrong with him. She knew since the day she dropped him off. The day he became Tombstone, kind of. She knows that something's been off since then. And instead of letting him go, she finds out where he is through his brother. And kind of a big mistake to enter a gang hideout. She she could have talked to him about it in a different way, but she loves him, so she's going to go straight to where he is to try and save him. And this is just unfortunately right before the place gets attacked. So Lonnie and Pearl are in hiding kind of as this is all happening, and they escape when they get a chance to escape. I didn't expect there to be like murder and like stabbing in this show. It's kind of scary. Like Scorpion's actually like, I don't know if he's ever even really been on the big screen aside from that small like pre-Scorpion appearance in Spider-Man Homecoming. He is savage with that thing. I just like the combat at first. Like Scorpion throws a safe at Peter, and Peter's able to dodge it and throw it back. He holds up for a bit, but then he just starts to fall short because Scorpion's so powered by this suit. He even has some sort of power where I don't know if he's absorbing energy or it's the suit is creating it, but it's burning his skin. It's making me wonder if he's gonna burn the whole suit onto him permanently, and that might be really cool / terrifying to think about. But he seems very empowered by the suit. At first, I kind of like what they had going on, and that's why Peter was winning. He tells Peter to use the environment against him, and it works for a second. Peter thinks, and we think, we pretty much got Scorpion. He's tied up in so much webbing, but Peter runs out of webbing, which is the first major downfall of this fight for him, because Scorpion is able to break free. That's kind of how he was actually. That's the moment he actually starts powering his suit up, because he was using it to get out of the webs. There's a giant metal support beam that Scorpion drops on Peter before he can. Peter's trying to hold it up, and then Scorpion just jumps him as he's trying to do that. So we lead to Peter nearly dying, in my opinion. I think he was pretty close, and he still got that stab wound. But the glider comes to save Peter. What kind of glider is that? It's a Green Goblin's glider. I know I talked about a little bit of this in the beginning, but it's kind of exciting to just think of the possibilities of what the Green Goblin's going to be like in this universe. And I don't think they're wasting much time with this show. I think they're moving it at a great pace. Every time I wonder when something's going to happen, it happens before. Scorpion could have been Scorpion for a whole season if they wanted to do some drastic build up to him, but they made him kind of like a main villain in the last 2 episodes. So the way they're handling their villains, most of them, they're big ones for the most part. Like Doc Ock is kind of this like shadow in the background. Maybe he will even make it out of this next season, out of this season alive. But at the same time, I wonder if there's like a consideration from the creators that this might have to be a contained series, because it might not get a season 2. But that's for the big wigs to decide. We just got to decide if we like it or not, and there's no pressure on that. Personally, I'm loving it. What do you think? MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. Is it your average Spider-Man show, or do you feel like I do and feel this is kind of like maybe the next level Spider-Man show? Spider-Man I didn't know we needed. So yeah, this episode ends on the glider saving Peter and Scorpion vowing that it won't let him go next time. And wow, we have a real Spider-Man villain born in the flesh, and we got Spidey fighting him right out of the gate. Pretty cool. Scorpion Rising, episode 7. That was a good one. Most episodes are decent. Like the last one, for example, before he met Daredevil, I felt like the episode was a little slow, but the Daredevil part was really, really cool. So it was worth it. And kind of cool to see that an animated show is taking time to build character and make this series feel a little bit more than your average animated series. And there's a lot of lore they're playing with, and I love it. So let's move on to the next episode. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Episode 8, Tangled Web. We are in the latter half of the series. Next week, there's only 2 episodes. We are almost done with the show already. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's almost like What If, close to. But interesting way of releasing episodes. Personally, I can kind of see why they did it. I think there's some good real beats to end on, like the one they ended on in this episode, Tangled Web. We'll talk about that. And I think I really think a lot of thought went into this show, as any good show or any show should. However, I feel like this show did its homework. It feels honestly like a version of Spider-Man we could have had in the MCU if like different decisions were made, if maybe, let's say, Sony didn't have as much control or say in the matter, this show is maybe a little bit more what that would have looked like. However, I don't think the Osborne factor was ever a thing until this show. I could be wrong. I don't know about the comic sources. Do you know any about comic sources? Is this happening in any comic book? The Norman training and being Peter's mentor. A huge moment in this episode. The quote, "With great power comes great respect." Total. It's a moment in Spider-Man's career that he needs to be told a certain lesson to base his superhero-ness off. And this one didn't come from Uncle Ben or Aunt May. This one came from his mentor, someone he respects, someone he cares about, someone who cares about him and has gone a long way out of his way to protect him and get him in as a superhero, as your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, keeping him in line, getting him in line with the Sokovia Accords. And I mean, we see freaking Iron Man in this episode when they catch Octavius, because that's who is part of the Sokovia Accords. Iron Man, I mean, we didn't see much of it, but that was, I believe, Iron Man was doing stuff like that after the events of Civil War, in and through maybe Infinity War. I know he takes a bit of a break, but he by Infinity War he's telling Pepper no more tricks or something like that. But anyway, we don't know how much different this Iron Man is in this universe, but the big events do line up in this show, which I just love. I didn't imagine that we would see Peter get so beat up so early on in this show. However, it's a season show. This is a type of show that wants to exceed your expectations, in my opinion. And if you're a general fan of Spider-Man, I think it's going to even do that more. You don't have to be a seasoned Spider-Man fan. This could be, honestly, your introduction to Spidey. And interesting enough, when you go and watch other iterations, you'll see what Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin is like. I mean, it's a common fact that Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. I don't want to say spoilers, but unless you're completely new to this show, in the comics, Norman Osborn usually is more of a villain, and he doesn't really have much time to be a good guy, from what I know. I don't read the comics. I learn from great people like Ryan Airy over at Screen Crush. They quote the comics and get all that down. They give you the facts and the Easter eggs, and that's my advertisement for this episode. Just because I so much admire Ryan for coming on for our 100th episode. I can't believe it's already been a while. So Peter wakes up in what we think is a hospital, and that's concerning for him as Spider-Man, because people will see his face and know who he is. And I thought it was a hospital for a bit, but then he realized it is Norman Osborn's personal little hospital wing with his own doctors. He has everything, and I don't despise him at all. I think absolutely leaning into this good guy Norman Osborn would make, whether or not he does it, if he doesn't transform into Green Goblin or a good guy Green Goblin, I think just the character exceeds expectation in this show. And he's a breath of fresh air. I actually like him as a character. He's very likable. He's very human. And he wants to help. He wants to be... that could lead into some sinister intentions, like all the watching of Spider-Man. Like at one point, Spidey will, like Peter said, Harry told Peter, "You can be whatever Spider-Man you want." That line got in Peter's head, and he's Spider-Man a certain way, and Norman Osborn is telling him not to pull his punches, because, he wants Peter to be full Spider-Man and be able to take down supervillains without having Peter needing to call him, which is kind of a new move. Like, Peter was so focused on getting a hold of Norman because he helped him for a second and gave him the idea of, guy in the chair, throw this thing at him, and it worked. But once he started noticing Osborn wasn't there, he got weaker. He wasn't depending on himself. He was depending on someone else. So I think it's a good lesson to actually teach Peter. This reminds me, this whole scene when he wakes up in the hospital. I don't know if I said he assured Peter that his face wasn't seen because he was there. And Peter's taking this loss hard because he got his butt kicked, and he can't be holding back his punches once he starts actually using his full potential. His ability will be unmatched, is what he says actually, and he basically tells Peter, if our work should be done here if you can't start to do that. And it's kind of some tough love we get. And all of a sudden, there's a mentor role, not only in being Spider-Man, but being Peter Parker. And this is weighs on Pete for the whole episode. He really, really wants to do right and get Scorpion, and he's down by it. But I kind of like this open your power, with great respect comes great responsibility. All these new morals for Spidey to lie on. It's going to change Peter. It's going to keep changing him to a point where this alternate universe will have a very unique version of Peter, which as a show should. But for the show to give a reason and meaning behind the transformation, and we're able to watch it in this sort of depth, like Villain of the Week, remember that? This is like this could be non-animated and the show could be good. Like, this is a solid show. There's a lot of drama, a lot more than you'd expect from an animated Spider-Man show. So yeah, that moment where he tells him, maybe we shouldn't work together, it reminds me, parallels the if you're nothing with the suit, then you shouldn't have it, from Tony to Peter. Because Peter wants to jump right back into a suit, but Norman insists that he recovers. Peter does make his rounds to Dr. Connor's class. I almost forgot he was in a class. I almost also forgot that Dr. Connors was a lady in this world. There's a lot happening in this world. Peter gets home and his Aunt May sees he's in bad condition and she's so freaked out. He opens up to her, not by telling her that he's Spider-Man, but by saying he feels like he let everyone down. And he openly cries. An emotional Spider-Man. It's good to be in touch with your emotions. It's a good message for younger people watching this show that it's okay to cry if you had a bad day. Don't keep it all bottled in. And I kind of like that. We get to see a lot more inside of more inside of Peter's head than we usually get to in all Spider-Man series or movies. I mean, granted, there's a bunch of animated Spider-Man series that I haven't seen, so maybe you got like a few good ones that you completely think of. Like, is the animated show any good? MarvelManiacPod at gmail.com. Let me know. We cut to Otto, and he's farming XP in a game, which just made me laugh. And little did I know that moment he would get raided, and it's General Ross at the front door, and Otto does what he can to try to escape. However, Ross shows up with Iron Man, and yeah, Iron Man is on the freaking scene. I love it. I love that we got to see him. He even, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to just put like my money in the basket that it's the same voice actor from What If who plays Iron Man. He sounds so much like him. I gotta say though, the voice actor for Iron Man in Marvel Rivals, the game, pretty spot on RDJ, if you ask me. I don't know how many times I've said if you ask me, but that might be my thing of the week. Pete leaves Niko a voicemail. This resentment about her not knowing he's Spider-Man is still happening. So that's going across a few episodes now. And Peter's having some really vivid, terrible nightmares. Pearl reminds Peter that they're lab partners, which I definitely forgot. And he goes over to her house to do the homework and whatnot. And then that's when Lonnie shows up and Peter's there, and it looks kind of awkward, kind of like a bad image right there, like, oh, how's she doing? Oh, another guy's over. It's Peter. Wow. It might feel like a little bit of a betrayal, which is maybe why he went so hard on her. He pretty much says to her, she's like, you can get out now. Your gang's pretty much disbanded. And he's like, no, I'm not going to give up on them the moment they need me most. So he's like fully bought into the gang now. We've seen another transformation from a humble jock football player to a hardened, angry gang member in the course of 8 episodes. Pretty intense. I can see why this episode's called Tangled Web. Everyone's tangled up in the big web. Pearl is totally flirty with Peter. I don't know if I'm wrong. Sometimes I read that wrong, but maybe it was just the fact that guys and girls can be friends, and they had a good moment together. However, I ain't gonna go shipping them yet because, man, that'll be actually a lot of drama. And what about Niko? So that's a love interest. He's already let down, so I think it seems like he's going to be with Niko. I don't know. Who's he going to go with? She literally gives Lonnie an ultimatum, her, the gang, and he says the gang. Peter crawls out of a window. We don't see this, but he just shows up in front of Lonnie, and Lonnie is surprised because he did see Peter a second ago. How'd you get here? You know, and Peter really tries to convince him, and he's very set on what he wants to do, and nothing's going to change that. That's just the situation we are in with Lonnie right now. Or should I just start calling him Tombstone officially? We got a sad walking Peter home. He's very depressed. You know, like I said, this is an emotional Peter. Peter Parker's usually emotional. This is an extra emotional Peter. And as a very emotional person, I can relate to him and that loneliness he likely feels. And he gets home and May's not there. She had to call. She got called into work, and she tells Peter, you know, a little bit earlier in the episode that she needs someone like Ben. That he needs, not she does. He needs somebody like Ben to talk to. So he goes to Osborne with that in mind. And this moment where Harry's in the room and wants to stay, and Norman kicks Harry out. I hope that's not foreshadowing to Harry becoming evil, but it may lean a little bit more into the fact that maybe he'll convince his dad to let him become a good Green Goblin, a good superhero. He'll build his son a suit because he wants to be out there so bad or something. I don't know. There's a lot of things that can happen. We get the great power comes great respect line, and I think that's a really cool moment. I love how Spider-Man's life and all the versions we see, there's this moment. And his Uncle Ben must not have said it to him in this universe. He also goes on to say, and if you don't have respect, you have nothing. And Norman has to leave, and Peter is very sad. He's just so sad. Then we get to see a masked guy show up and talk to the gang, Lonnie's 10th Street gang, and they pay him. It seems like with a bag of dimes. I don't know what that was about, but they wanted some info on Scorpion, Mac Gargan, and or Mac. Sorry, this masked figure is clearly setting up to be a future villain. I don't know who he is. Maybe he's from the comics or something, but he has the info, and he says Scorpion is pretty much like Iron Man with tail. He's super strong, and then he gives them the information about Octavius, and that's how he got his powers. So Lonnie is the person who rallies the gang to feel like empowered, and dang, it's just a sad descent into darkness for Lonnie. Tragic character, and the saddest part is maybe he does want to be there now, but he didn't before, and there's been such a change because of it in his life. The people around him, it's very hard to see him. It's harder for them than it is for him in a way, probably. After Osborne leaves, a emergency comes in, and it's something going on in Midtown, and he wants to go, but he tells Harry, I don't have my suit. It's destroyed. And Harry said, well, I made you a suit, pretty much. And he opens it, and we don't get to see it. We see a reflection of it. It looks like a classic Spider-Man blue and red suit. Love it. And he's going to take the suit and go fight crime. I imagine this to be the moment that sets up a big ultimatum again between Osborne and Parker. They are going to have an ultimatum situation because he's acting out of the Sokovia Accords. In a sense, he's really operating under Norman Osborn, in my opinion. But he should be able to do what he wants. However, I just think that him leaving with a suit that Harry made, it's going to make him mad. I just got a feeling about that. I don't know why. Maybe it won't. But it's definitely behind his back decision making, and I don't think he would want that. I think he would prefer to call. But yeah, Harry tells Peter, be whatever Spider-Man you need to be, not the one my dad wants you to be. So he's going to take probably a little bit of all the lessons learned from his new friends. And one final reference, go get him, Tiger, from Harry. Love it. The show's great. Call me a fool, but I like it. Maybe in retrospect I won't. But I did have a good time watching these episodes today. I'd say the last 3 episodes were stronger than these, but I'd say that these 3 are setting up for a pretty big finale for the last 2 episodes. I would anticipate a couple banger episodes the way this show's been looking, and we are going to be covering that next week. What do you think of the show so far? Are you rooting for it, or are you saying no more Spider-Man? This has gone too far. This is woke. I don't really look at things like woke or not woke. I look at things, is this good? Is this fun? Is this different? Yes. Yes and yes. But I definitely don't think you're wrong if you don't like it. Always curious to hear your thoughts. Always curious. So we got Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming out technically tomorrow, the 13th, for the midnight releases, starting around 4 or 5 p.m. And I'm going to be at a 6:30 showing. I'm going to try and record my episode right when I get home. I'm going to do my best on the episode without being able to take notes. It's going to be a lot of mental notes. It's going to be very reactionary. And I definitely like your input on that type of episode after we do it, to see if, was that coherent enough? Did I go over enough stuff? Should I just go see it again with a notepad? We'll figure all that out. But I am super excited for Captain America Brave New World. It's been too long since we had a Marvel theaters screening. So me and TJ are going to go. Also, Ryan Airy gave it praise on Twitter. He has seen it. So it might not be the best movie in the world, but I think for you hardcore MCU fans, you Marvel freaking maniacs out there, I think we are in for a little bit of a ride of super soldiers. I don't know. But I'm so excited. I'll talk to you about that this weekend, and then we will wrap up this series next week and decide where we go from there. I'm not sure how long the next release is. I believe Daredevil is less than a month, so we're going to probably be doing a lot of Daredevil catching up. I'm going to try and sum up the series for you, and there's a lot of great fun Daredevil episodes in the future. We have all of this here to look forward to and theorize. MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. I don't mean to say it so much. I just do want to hear your thoughts. If you're listening to this, thank you for being here. Give us a like, a rating, 5 stars, whatever it is. Help us get up on your listening platform. We do take tips in the About section of this episode. Never necessary, always appreciated. And that is it. So until we come to talk about Brave New World this weekend, Avengers and Marvel Maniacs alike, disassemble.